On the back of a beast, we strode through vicious oceans, deathly deserts, a colony reliant on my command. Through disasters that trembled our existence, to poisonous pandemics, this was the ride of our lives. We continued the wandering village for another 100 days, and this 100 days really tested our grit. Welcome yourselves in. If you haven't already seen it, the link to the first 100 days is down in the description. There were no delays in our pain. On day 100, we were in the thick of the poison. We set the workers to chop anything that becomes contaminated. Once out, we set our sights on researching the aqua farm. As we moved into day 101, we noticed a rather large poison forest on the path ahead. In an attempt to build more trust, we looked at feeding the ombu with our catapult. With the ombu resting, we scavenged nearby. We also got down some more water storage, followed by the aqua farm we'd just researched. In the road, we stumbled upon a peculiar sight. It had the remains of another ombu. The village elder finally approved of me. Our next focus was farms. On day 109, the ombu once again rose from his slumber. Whilst out scavenging, we picked up some more villagers from a nearby scout mission. It wasn't long before we were already on an island. However, the ombu didn't need sleep, so we soldiered on. We placed our fourth kitchen and began to grill some tomatoes. Every shrine we found on the world map, we excavated. Sometimes it's important to take a step back and admire everything you've built. Day 112, and we commanded to march northeast. On the same day, we queued both the iron furnace and the windmill research. Whilst out scavenging, we came across a thick bog in the forest. The trade-off of low productivity was worth the 5 knowledge points that we found. Our next bit of trouble was this whirlpool. The whirlpool exhausts the ombu like crazy. Another shrine. Let's excavate. Day 114, and a sleep spot has appeared for our vehicle. While snoozing, we hit up some more excavations to get more stone. Day 115, and we woke to march once again. This was new. A spore cloud floated over us, pushing the poison on the ombu out of the water and into the mountains. A snowstorm appeared. In order to build more trust in the ombu, we started to feed him some more. More settlers on the road? Welcome aboard. We hit a storm and it leveled multiple buildings. Things were really starting to ramp up. You know the glass blower we built? Well, it was time to turn it on and actually make some glass. Another shrine, and more planks and slab production. We had ran into something we hadn't seen before. They were called stone mushrooms, and apparently the ombu absolutely loves them. They're pretty bad though, because they cause constipation and earthquakes. On top of that, we were walking straight to the biggest poisonous mushroom field we had seen yet. With all that to worry about, we laid out our fish farm area for a new continuous source of food. As soon as one expedition finished, we were lucky enough to have another shrine pop up. With the poison field looming, I increased the doctor numbers in anticipation. Here it comes, brace yourselves! We desperately tried to make sure we were cutting down anything poisonous on the ombu's back and curing everyone as quick as we could. Straight from one disaster to another. More buildings leveled. With the poison infection spreading, we turned on high priority and tried to stop it in its tracks. Away from the poison once more, we marched ahead to see there were more nomads to bring to the colony. Our luck had turned a little, and we had stumbled upon a nice poison-free spot for the ombu to rest. On day 125, we placed down another berry gatherer to keep the food requirements met. We demolished unused buildings, and we fed antidote to the ombu to bring the poison levels down. The real problem was we were walking straight into another poison forest. Everything we worked so hard to clear was back again. And another. Back on the world map, we noticed another shrine and some nomads. Despite everything, we marched on through the rain. We also looked to place down the iron furnace. Because of the bad desirability, we placed it away from the housing. More nomads, and an ultimatum. Whilst on an excavation, we were hit with a decision. Luckily, we chose correct and bagged ourselves some slabs and stone. The windmill finished researching. It was time to place one and start milling up some flour. It was day 130. Our population was now on 70. Management of all resources and people was starting to become more complex. We ordered ombu to get up because our colony was getting poisoned. We were hit by another storm that ruined more buildings. Day 133, and the bakery was ready to be built. Who doesn't love bread? We continued to pick up whoever we could along the way. The ombu was pathed into the earthquake food again. I forgot to mention, we had unlocked the sleep command, and he was sleepy. Now was the perfect time to test it out. On day 135, I noticed a rather big lack of stone, so I queued up a bunch to gather. I also placed yet another berry gatherer. Yet another earthquake leveled many more buildings. We were currently researching the cottage housing, so we queued up the rationing guide. After everything we've been through, he still doesn't obey. Marching on through the blistering cold. Does it ever get any easier, we thought? There was another piece of research we completed called Pet Ombu. This is crucial for us to begin to get him to trust us again. Whilst trying to meet some locals, we stumbled upon a shaman ritual. We managed to seal some herbs and leg it. Just before we entered the desert, we set the Ombu down to rest and began to plan our food rationing. Into the heat we go. Some good news though, more shrines and nomads. And before we know it, our beautiful cottages were ready to be built. Eager to leave the desert, we commanded the northeast route. We continued to work on our relationship by feeding and petting Ombu. We had forgotten to manage the wood situation properly. Next on the agenda was more farms. We laid out the planting area and also prepared all the farms for the mountain region. The tornado that we passed through was the most damaging yet. From our food buildings to all of our housing and the decorations had all been leveled. On day 146 we salvaged what appeared to be some remains in the cave. This netted us some iron at the cost of both scavengers getting poisoned. And there it is, our first cottage. Isn't it beautiful? You know the sacred monument we spoke about earlier? We now had the perfect spot for it near the housing. Ombu was beginning to listen to every command. So, one of the ways to counter the earthquakes was to research laxatives. We queued it up as it was beginning to drain all our resources. Yet another tornado leveled critical infrastructure. The Ombu gods aren't with us. Stone mushrooms again? We aren't yet prepared for more earthquakes. We are down pretty bad at the moment for resources and really need to get back on top of it. Day 150 and we're still here. Increase the damn bread production. We placed down another sawmill on day 151. With our crops dying, we switched up to mass-produced beetroot. On day 152, the Ombu awoke. We continued our adventure deep into the mountains. Not much happened for the next couple of days, other than repairing and picking up a few more villages. The Ombu continued northeast. At this point, the Ombu had walked 1,132 kilometers. Ombu laxative was researched, so we began to make some to counter the earthquakes. Hold up for a second. If you're enjoying this video, please consider subbing to the channel. I'd love for you to be part of my journey as I continue to grow. Over to you, Ombu! Okay, so we were 160 days in, and honestly, we were starting to get a little more comfortable. Resources were looking better. Food was good. You know what? Life is good. At the next junction, we ordered to go southeast, as we wanted to be out at sea. We had researched the tree nursery, so we were one step closer to being self-sustainable for wood. We queued up the blood extractor and the forester research. Also, another sawmill got placed. With our population at 94, I placed another couple of cottages. As we moved into the ocean, we turned on the fishery and saltwater collector. I was too content. We travelled straight into a poison island. This time was actually okay though, and we only had a couple of poison growths to deal with. Disaster after disaster. I had made the huge mistake of not sending the Ombu to sleep before entering into the ocean depths. His tiredness was high, and this can prove fatal if not dealt with effectively. We decided on going southeast, as the other passage had something we hadn't seen before: tapeworms. No idea what they do, but I wasn't willing to find out. So it was time to put down a mini statue of the Ombu. A huge earthquake hit us, just when resources were getting good again. The Ombu was exhausted, his health draining. We tried our best to keep his trust up with food. We also had our first health potion brewed, so we fed him that as well. We finally reached the fluffy shores and he could get the much needed rest. Whilst he was getting the much needed rest, we took the time to pet him some more. Because who's a good boy, right? Day 171, and as he rose, we set our path for northeast. With the sheer amount of food we were producing, we needed more storage. We placed another granary to meet the demands. Unfortunately, whilst we were casually swimming along, we noticed something on the path ahead. Yep, our first encounter with tapeworms was imminent. We took this opportunity to also check out the Ombu pharmacy a bit more. We also had a very important decision to make. A good choice. It was day 175 and we placed more water production to meet demands. And here it was, the dreaded tapeworm. What adverse effects will this bestow upon us? 25% increased hunger, and food is 50% less effective. Some wildlings have been found. We handed them some bread and they bestowed a blessing upon our people. Thanks, I guess. We stopped right in the poison to eat. This was the start of a huge chain of events that would test our limits. After a short swim, we were on an island where we could rest once again. That chain of events we mentioned? Well, here it is. A spore cloud floats surrounding the island. This rapidly increases his poison levels. As we march in, the spore cloud follows. Amongst all the drama, we were able to at least plant some trees now. We noticed a group of nomads paddling towards us, so I tested out a new command that makes the Ombu tread water on the spot. We also took the opportunity to pet him some more. Whilst waiting, we also set command for northeast once again. Here comes trouble again. It was going the same direction as us too. Eventually, the nomads got to us. We picked them up. We were still swimming inside the spore cloud and the Ombu poison levels grew worryingly high. We countered this as best as we could with antidotes. We also changed our mind and chose to go southeast instead, as land was near and the Ombu was getting super tired again. Despite the ongoing drama, we continued on with some upgrades. The spore cloud was still onto us. We had hit dangerous levels, and I know there was some poisonous forests on the path too. Please pull through, big boy. Out of the fire and into the furnace. Keep in mind his tiredness levels too. Oh man, an absolute rough ride. Ombu was exhausted. We had no choice but allow him to sleep here. We increased our doctors and prepared for the worst. As soon as we could, we forced the Ombu to walk on. A larger poison forest lay ahead, and he was still so exhausted. We continued to pet, feed, and heal the Ombu to try and survive. You wouldn't believe it. He fell asleep under the water. Poison levels were very high. Villagers were getting sick left and right. We again forced him to walk in an attempt to survive. Screw this. You need to run. We sprinted deep into the poison cloud, clutching onto what little hope we had left. We emerged and we are still breathing. Thankfully, our teamwork and determination kept us alive. Thank you, Ombu. You've earned this rest. The toxicity levels in the soil were still too high though, so we marched forth. Wake up again. The village was plagued with infested spores growing everywhere. We queued up the workers to clear the mess so we could rebuild. We had finally found a poison-free space where Ombu could rest, and we could finally get back on our feet. The infestation was still rampant throughout. We had to push the workers even harder. We were up and roaming once again. Day 190. We were almost there. We chose the southeast pass so we didn't have to deal with any more poison. We were still losing crops to the poison, but we were almost on top of it. Oh look, he's eating the stone mushrooms again. Luckily we're prepared this time and have a laxative pre-made. Day 194. All in all, we had a nice clear road ahead for the first time in a while. At the crossroads, we chose northeast to avoid the poison island. We increased the food storage more. Just look how far we've come. After the few weeks the Ombu had been through, he had well and truly earned this absolute mammoth sleep. He did eventually wake up and we are into day 199. What an absolute journey this has been. On this day, we had finally overcome our poison pandemic and we were just creating resources to build our stone roads. We did it. Day 200. What a journey we have been through together. I will take this time to thank you so much for joining me as we build on top of a cheeky dinosaur. If you've enjoyed the video, please go ahead and click the like button. If you haven't already, do consider subbing to the channel as well. And last but not least, please have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.